I discovered that my therapist of 5 years records all my sessions and sells them as a podcast called The Most Pathetic Woman. It has 4.8 million listeners. She makes $180,000 a month. My family listens to it without knowing it is me. It all started when my younger sister, Andrea, recommended a podcast to me. You have to listen to it. It's called The Most Pathetic Woman. It's about a woman who doesn't realize her life is a disaster. It's addictive. I didn't want to listen. It sounded cruel. But 3 weeks later at a family lunch, my mom mentioned it. That podcast about the pathetic woman is incredible. Poor woman, so blind. My Aunt Laura laughed. I yell at the screen. Wake up, you fool. My dad nodded. It's frustrating. I can't stop listening to it. Everyone in my family was listening to it that night. Out of curiosity, I searched for the podcast on Spotify. The Most Pathetic Woman. Episode 1 published 4 years and 11 months ago. I froze. Exactly 5 years ago, I started therapy with Dr. Patricia Ruiz. Voice was Patricia's, but different. Colder, more mocking. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the most fascinating case of my career. This woman, whom I will call M, is a perfect example of pathological self-deception. My stomach nodded. She continued. She came to my office crying because her husband cheated on her. The pathetic part is that she thinks the problem is him. 5 years ago, my husband Carlos cheated on me. I told Patricia in my first session. I never told anyone else. Kept listening, trembling. The funny thing is that M doesn't understand that the real problem is her. She's so insecure. So needy that she pushes men to look for something better. I felt nauseous. I had told Patricia I felt insecure after the infidelity. She told me it was completely normal, that it wasn't my fault. But on the podcast, she was saying the opposite. I opened episode 2. Today, M told me she forgave her husband immediately. Obviously, M has no dignity. She accepts crumbs because she believes she doesn't deserve more. The comments were worse. This woman is an idiot. How can she be so stupid? I'm embarrassed for her. I checked the podcast information. 247 episodes published. I had exactly 247 sessions with Patricia. 1 per week for 5 years. Every Tuesday at 4 in the afternoon. Every secret of mine had turned into content. When I told her about my miscarriage. Episode 83, M lost a baby. And her first reaction was to wonder if her husband would leave her. Pathetic. When I told her my sister stole $15,000 from me. Episode 120, M is so weak she can't even confront her own sister. When I told her about my suicidal thoughts. Episode 192, I'm threatened to kill herself. Again. Her favorite tactic to get attention. I never threatened to kill myself. I said that sometimes I didn't wanna wake up. It is completely different. She twisted it, turned it into something dramatic. For the podcast, I checked the numbers. 4.8 million subscribers. Each episode had 4 ads. I did the math. Patricia was making approximately $180,000 per month. Over $2 million a year selling my pain. I found the document I signed at my first appointment 5 years ago. I authorized the recording of sessions. For therapeutic and research purposes. Search. She used that word to justify everything. I texted my sister, Andrea. That podcast you recommended. How long have you been listening to it? Since episode 1? She replied, almost 5 years. It's my favorite podcast. I asked my mom also from the beginning. 5 years. My dad. For years. My best friend, Lucia. 3 years. Everyone was listening to my deepest secrets without knowing it was me. Patricia changed small details. My husband is named Carlos. She called him Roberto. I am 34. She said 37. I work as a designer. She said, accountant. Enough so that no one would connect the dots. Everything else was exactly real. My actual words, my recorded cries. My traumas exposed. That night, I listened to 23 episodes straight without sleeping. In episode 147, Patricia said something that destroyed me. Honestly, M is never going to heal. But that works for me. The longer she stays in therapy, the more content I have. She didn't want to help me. She wanted me sick, broken, dependent because I was her $1 million business. Next day, I arrived at my 4 o'clock session. As always, Patricia greeted me with her warm smile. Valeria, so good to see you. How was your week? I sat on the gray couch where I had sat 247 times. I looked at the coffee table. There was her black recorder. As always, I pretended normalcy. It was a difficult week. Carlos and I had another big fight. Patricia nodded, taking notes in her notebook. Tell me more about that. While I talked, she wrote. Now I knew the truth. Those notes were the script for her next episode. Episode 248. When the session ended, Patricia smiled. Valeria, you are making incredible progress. I'll see you next week. Peter. The usual 200. I left her office on the 8th floor. But I didn't leave the building. I waited in my car in the parking lot. 5 minutes later, Patricia came out with a young woman, her production assistant. I followed them at a distance. Today's episode is going to be gold, Patricia said. Em finally admitted she feels completely invisible in her marriage. The listeners are going to go crazy over this. The assistant laughed. We're almost at 5 million subscribers. We should make official merchandise mugs that say I am pathetic. They both laughed as they got into their cars. I sat in mine crying. 5 years trusting her with my darkest secrets. 5 years paying her $200 per session. $52,000 total. For her to betray me in the worst possible way. But the worst came that night. My mom shared the new episode in the family WhatsApp group. Episode 248, the most pathetic woman admits she feels invisible. My mom wrote, this woman keeps getting worse. How sad. My sister responded. It's so frustrating. I would have given up on her already. My aunt added, she needs more than therapy. She needs a miracle. They were talking about me, mocking me, pitying the pathetic woman on the podcast. Without knowing that woman ate with them every Sunday. The next day, I hired a lawyer specializing in image rights. I showed him the signed consent. The document that said research, not commercial exploitation. My lawyer smiled. That is a clear violation of multiple laws. You have $1 million case. Then I hired a private investigator. Find out everything about Dr. Patricia Ruiz. 3 days later, I received a 47-page report. Patricia Ruiz was not her real name. Real name was Patricia Sandoval. She lost her psychology license in Texas 7 years ago for violating patient confidentiality. She was practicing illegally in California under a false identity. But there was something else in the report. Something the investigator highlighted in yellow. Something that when I read it left me paralyzed. Because I finally understood why Patricia chose me. Specifically, why of all her patients, I was the star of her $1 million podcast. Patricia and I shared something. Something she never mentioned in 5 years of therapy. Something that changed absolutely everything. Because that secret connection between us was Carlos. The report showed that Patricia Sandoval had been in a relationship with Carlos for 2 years before he married me. They met when Carlos was working in Texas. She was 28, he was 26. They were together for 2 years, living together, planning to get married. Then Carlos met me at a friend's wedding in California. He moved back, broke up with Patricia. And 6 months later, we were married. Patricia never got over it. The report included old photos. Patricia and Carlos on a beach. Patricia and Carlos at Christmas. Patricia and Carlos in their apartment. She was beautiful then. Not cold and calculating like the woman I knew. She looked happy. Until Carlos left her. The investigator found her social media posts from that time. He destroyed me. He chose a woman he met once over me. I will never forgive him. Then the post stopped. She deleted everything. Changed her name. Moved to California. And found me. I sat there for hours staring at those photos. Everything made sense now. Why Patricia chose me. Why she was so interested in my marriage. Why she always asked about Carlos. How he treated me. If I was happy, she wasn't helping me. She was studying her replacement. Every week for 5 years, I sat on her couch and told her how much Carlos loved me, how happy we were, how he was a good husband. And she listened and smiled and took notes, then went home and recorded a podcast, telling 8 million people that I was pathetic, that Carlos deserved better, that I was the problem. She was using me to destroy Carlos's life by proxy. She couldn't hurt him directly, so she hurt the woman he chose over her. She made me hate myself. She made my family pity me. She made strangers mock me. And all while Carlos had no idea. The next day was Tuesday, my 4 o'clock session. I arrived early. Patricia was already there, sitting at her desk with her back to the door. I walked in and sat on the gray couch. She turned around and smiled. "Valeria, you're early today. How are you?" I looked at her recorder on the coffee table. I looked at her notebook. I looked at her face. The same face from the photos with Carlos. "I'm fine," I said. "Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm done." Patricia frowned. "Done with what?" "Therapy," I said. "I don't need it anymore." "Valeria," she said, her voice gentle. "We've talked about this. Healing takes time. You can't just stop." I stood up. "I know you're Patricia Sandoval. I know you lost your license in Texas. I know Carlos was your boyfriend for 2 years. I know you moved here to destroy me." Patricia's face went pale. She didn't speak. "I know about the podcast. I know 4.8 million people listen to it. I know my family listens to it. I know you make $180,000 a month selling my pain." She stood up slowly. "Valeria, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said. "I'm suing you. For illegal practice. For violation of privacy. For emotional distress. My lawyer says it's $1 million case. And that's just the beginning. I'm going to the media. The New York Times. The Washington Post. This story is going to be everywhere. The most pathetic woman will become the most pathetic therapist." Patricia's hands were shaking. "Please, Valeria, don't do this. I'll stop the podcast. I'll delete everything. I'll pay you back." I laughed. "Pay me back? You made over $10 million from my trauma. You think money can fix this?" I took out my phone. "I'm recording this. Just like you recorded me for 5 years." She stepped forward. "Valeria, please." I was angry. I was hurt. But I helped you. I helped you process your feelings. I helped you understand yourself. "You helped me?" I said. "You made me feel crazy. You made me feel weak. You made me feel like I didn't deserve to be loved. You used my deepest secrets to entertain millions of people. You made my family laugh at me. That's not help. That's torture." I turned toward the door. "See you in court, Patricia." I walked out and didn't look back. That night, I called Carlos. "We need to talk," I said. He came over. I told him everything. The podcast. The recordings. The listeners. The money. "Patricia." Carlos sat there in shock. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I had no idea. I never told you about Patricia. I met her in Texas when I was working there. We were together for 2 years. I thought I loved her. Then I met you at that wedding. I knew immediately. I knew you were the one. I broke up with Patricia and moved back. I never told you because I didn't want you to feel like second choice. You weren't second choice, Valeria. You were the only choice." I started crying. I felt like I'd been holding it in for 5 years. Carlos held me. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry I brought this into your life." "It's not your fault," I said. "It's hers." The next day, my lawyer filed the lawsuit. The same day, I contacted a journalist at the Los Angeles Times. 2 days later, the story broke. Therapist records patient sessions for popular podcast. Within hours, it was everywhere. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. The most pathetic woman became national news. The podcast was removed from all platforms. Patricia's social media accounts were deleted. Her office was closed. My family called me. My mom was crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I can't believe we listened to that. I can't believe we said those things about her." "It's okay," I said. You didn't know. But I need you to know something. I've been seeing a therapist for 5 years. The podcast was about me. The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. Then my mom started sobbing. I'm so sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I told my dad. I told my sister. I told my aunt. They were all horrified. They were all guilty. They had spent 5 years mocking me, pitying me, laughing at my pain, without ever knowing it was me. It took time to rebuild those relationships. It took time to trust again. But Carlos never left my side. He went to therapy with me. He held me when I cried. He listened when I needed to talk. 6 months later, the lawsuit was settled. Patricia Sandoval was ordered to pay me $3.2 million. She was charged with multiple crimes, including illegal practice of psychology, violation of privacy, and fraud. She faced up to 10 years in prison. The day before her sentencing, I received a letter from her. Dear Valeria, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to read this. But I need to say it anyway. I was angry. I was hurt. I felt like Carlos chose you over me because I wasn't good enough. I wanted to prove that you weren't perfect. I wanted to prove that you had problems too. But somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that. I became obsessed with the success, the money, the attention. I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as content. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I'm sorry for what I did to your family. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I don't expect you to believe me, but I am. Sincerely, Patricia. I read the letter once. Then I burned it. Carlos asked if I wanted to talk about it. No, I said. I'm done with her. I'm done with the past. I looked at him. I want to focus on us. On our future. He smiled. I like the sound of that. A year later, I started seeing a new therapist. A woman named Dr. Sarah Chin. She was kind. She was patient. She was licensed. And she never brought a recorder into our sessions. The first session, I told her about Patricia, about the podcast, about the betrayal. She listened. She didn't take notes. She just listened. When I was done, she said, Valeria, what happened to you is wrong. It was unethical. It was cruel. But it wasn't your fault. You deserved better. You deserve better. I started crying. For the first time in 5 years. I cried in therapy and didn't wonder who was listening. I cried and knew I was safe. Carlos picked me up after the session. How did it go? He asked. I smiled. It was good. I think I'm going to be okay. He kissed me. I know you are. We got in the car and drove home. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like the most fortunate woman in the world.